Hey, Kevin.
Tori Trust.
Can you hear me?
Say something, Tori.
Testing 1, 2.
Not hearing you, Tori.
Yeah. How about now? All right. All right, how about now?
There we go.
My
Now we
headphones
can hear Tori.
How's life on the West Coast?
There we go. Hi, Tori.
Hello.
All right, so I'm going to fix this. Tori, I've got a room full of teachers here, some of whom are very active on professional media and others are not. Waiting for, I think, 2 other people to join us in the Hangout. But I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to help us out here.
Of course. I'm excited to chat about PLNs. It's my favorite topic.
So, Tori, how about if you give us a little bit of your history? Do you have any, connection to La Costa Canyon here or anything?
No. Yeah, Mr. Fairchild was my high school physics teacher. One of the hardest teachers I ever had and the only teacher to ever give me a B. It was actually
that's not true.
It was B+, but ruined my straight A record.
Yeah.
And one of the most, let's see.
Yeah. Good thing you're over it.
Still not over it. Probably one of the most enlightened teachers that I've ever had. And now that I have the pleasure of training new teachers, I use a lot of his methods, the here, go and figure it out, and I'll scaffold along the way. I'm not going to tell you what you need to know. It's all about exploration and discovery, and we definitely had to do that in physics. Here's a board and something that slides down it, figure out the equation for friction. It's like, are you kidding me? Just tell me the equation. But right. That way you learn a lot more. So yeah, I graduated from La Costa Canyon in 2003. And so, yeah, that's my connection through San Diego School District.
So what are you doing now? What's your job now?
I am an assistant professor of learning technologies at UMass Amherst, University of Massachusetts, out here on the East Coast where we get things called snow in very cold days.
Never heard of it.
We had 8 feet of it last year. You should have heard of it.
Has it melted yet?
Just barely. It melted about end of May, actually.
Yep. There. So these teachers here, as I said, many of them are have just started building their professional networks. Others have been doing it for a while. Can you tell us what you know and what you found about teachers in K-12, the benefits of having a professional network and how it's useful?
I have to think about all my research. Well, this is definitely my research topic, which I started exploring when I was getting my PhD. I actually started building a professional learning network in 2008 for my master's degree at San Diego State University, a master's in educational technology. And the professor there had us, following a few blogs and writing about what we learned each week. And then from those blogs, I learned about Twitter hashtags, and then I learned about everything else, and it just expanded from there. And I started learning about all of these incredible technology tools. I was working in a very low-income elementary school in Southeast Washington, D.C., where half the teachers ended up leaving, a couple of them midway through the year. And I was seeing all of these incredible tools, and yet none of the teachers actually used the technology in the classroom. We had some computer cards and stuff, but they just weren't aware of anything that was out there, and they were so frustrated and struggling and isolated, and this had a lot of health issues on the teachers. So I was seeing that, so I went back to grad school to get my PhD, thinking, maybe I could come in and as an admin someday and help these teachers use social media and other tools to learn as an ongoing process. So that's what got me interested in it. My PLN has taken me very far in terms of publications, networking, but for K-12 teachers, it's just a form of ongoing learning and growth, which can be hard to come by. I mean, you're fortunate to have Kevin providing some training opportunities for you, but often it's you on your own behind closed doors, and maybe a conference once a year, or talking with some colleagues down the hallway if you have that chance. But with Twitter, with Feedly, following some blogs, like, you've got information at your hands anytime and anywhere, and it can be specific to your needs. So if you're struggling with just teaching fractions, you don't need a whole entire unit on how to teach math. You can go look something up about fractions. So kind of this anytime, anywhere learning that's geared towards, that's personalized and geared towards what you're interested in, I think are some of the biggest benefits.
Thanks, Tori. So Jen Roberts has just joined us. It looks like you're muted, Jen. Is that me or is that you? Yes, it's whoever is voicing. Yeah. So Jen, we still can't hear you. Sorry, Jen. I am muted.
Okay.
There you are.
I'm getting this very strange audio where I'm still hearing. Is it Tori? So now I'm hearing you telling me that I'm muted. It's like this big lag of audio that's dragging through the system, and when so. But you probably can by now.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, yes. So Jen Roberts is an English teacher at Point Loma High School. How long have you been there, Jen?
I've been there since 2006.
Okay. And we've been talking about, well, I met Jen through Professional Learning Networks. I think I probably met Jen on Twitter or at a conference. And so we've been talking about, I've got a room full of teachers here who are, some of them are just starting and some of them are more accomplished in professional networks, but Tori's just been telling us about her research. What about your experience, Jen, in how a professional network has been beneficial to you in your high school teaching?
Okay, so I may have to drop out of this Hangout and try and come back because what I'm hearing is the same Hangout twice, about 60 seconds apart.
Awesome.
And it's incredibly difficult to follow what you're saying and what I'm saying when right now you're still talking in my ear asking the question. So let me try something and see if I can come back and join you in just a moment. I might have this running in two places.
Absolutely.
Hang on a second.
So Tori,
yes. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was also still on as in another tab as a viewer, which is why I was getting double audio.
Got it.
And someone should tell Mark, if he's watching, that the way I figured out how to get into this Hangout is I actually had to I Googled the word Hangouts, and Google has a different URL right now just for Hangouts, separate from Google+, and that's where I was able to find the invite. It didn't show up in my Gmail. Didn't show up anywhere else. Took a little problem solving to get in.
It would go directly to the Gmail address that I sent it to.
It didn't show up there.
Well, that's fascinating.
It's still not showing up there.
Okay, so we're learning things now. Okay,
we're
good.
Learning things. So I went to Google, directly to Google Hangouts as a standalone URL, and that's what got me in.
Yeah,
so
we're trying to get in. Trying to get Mark Rounds in here as well. So yeah.
So he and I were talking on your Google Plus page about how to get in there. Okay, so your first question was, I've been 20 years in the classroom, 10 years in middle school, 10 years in high school now. I got on Twitter in 2009, and that opened up all kinds of amazing possibilities and learning experiences and really fun stuff and cool people to know. Like, I wouldn't know you if it weren't for Twitter. and a few other things, like just sort of knowing what's going on both in my local community and nationally and internationally in education and in my particular field, which is English. I love being able to communicate directly with the rock stars of English. If you have any English teachers in your room?
We have several.
Yeah. So Carol Jago's on Twitter, Jim Burke is on Twitter, Kelly Gallagher's on Twitter, and they will talk to you. If you tweet them a question, they will respond, especially Carol. She's particularly wonderful. But so are Jim and Kelly. You know, the people whose books you're reading are on Twitter, and they want to communicate with their readers, and they want to know how it's going in your classroom. You can tweet at Kylene Beers and say, hey, I tried this, it was fabulous, it worked great for my kids, and she will tweet you back and say thank you. You can tweet at authors. My kids tweet to Lori Halse Anderson and Matt De La Pena, and I tweet pictures of, you know, the kid comes up to me with the Lori Halse Anderson book and says, this book changed my life, and I say, okay, great, we're going to take a picture of you with the book, and we're going to send it to the author, and the author, you know, tweets back and says, oh, that's fabulous, you just made my day, and now the kid is walking on air because Lori Halse Anderson tweeted at her, or tweeted at me to pass along the message. So Twitter for me has been this, like, you know, huge window into the world, and people you wouldn't normally really have trouble accessing are willing to respond to you and participate and make your life more interesting. So both for professional development and just for connections.
So one of the concerns that I've heard from teachers is, oh my God, another thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing I got to do, in addition to grading and reading and doing all this stuff. Now I got to go look at Twitter for half an hour a day. How do you manage the time that it takes to find and locate and identify these resources?
This is one of those you get out of it what you put into it kind of things. I don't go to the copy room much anymore, but when I do, and I'm waiting for somebody else, or I'm waiting for the machine, I'm sitting there checking Twitter. It's an edge time thing for me. I'm waiting to pick up one of my kids, or I'm waiting for a meeting to start, or I'm you know, traveling, or I just, you know, have a few minutes. It's inspiring to me. I use Twitter now like kind of like my morning newspaper, because I follow news organizations and things like that. So, you know, I pick up my phone in the morning and flip through my Twitter feed. I still read real magazines. I still read real books. I'm still an English teacher with a huge classroom library. That part of my life hasn't gone away. But it's an edge time thing. And, you know, you follow certain hashtags, look at a hashtag, who's tweeting on that hashtag, what can I learn from those people? Oh my gosh, this woman has an awesome blog, and the next time I need to teach this thing, I'm going back to her blog and reading this post again. You know, because teachers are writing about their practice, and the way you find them is through Twitter. You know, that's how I found David Terrio and the amazing stuff he's blogging about, and he blogs about a lot about his classroom practices, and I can read through those and go, wow, this is amazing. It's not, you know, I don't have to wait for it to be out in a book to know what someone else is doing in their classroom and learn from them. Edge time, little bits here and there. It's not 30 minutes a day, it's more like 3 minutes here and 3 minutes there.
Sure.
So I have a few suggestions for those of you that are just starting out. First and foremost, awesome that Kevin's getting you to, or inspiring you to build a PLN. I think that's a tool that every teacher should have nowadays. There are days when you may feel isolated, or when you have an extremely tough challenge or something, and this kind of, you know, just like, I forgot your name, Jennifer, there you go. It's a window to the world, so you don't have to, you know, feel frustrated or whatnot. And so for tips, I would say start small. You know, follow 1 to 2 blogs, pick 1 to 2 Twitter hashtags to follow, pick one tool, and then as you get used to it, you start exploring it, then you'll likely find out, you know, you follow the Twitter hashtag EdChat, you'll see the other hashtags that are on there, and other blogs to follow, but definitely start small. Don't get overwhelmed. That's one of the things I've seen with Twitter, is a lot of teachers drop Twitter right away because it's way too overwhelming. And I did that at first. I joined Twitter and I was like, nope, not going to happen. So I have to really allow myself and say, it's okay that I don't go read all 1,000 tweets. I only have 5 minutes for class. I'm just going to scan through the latest posts. So I often put it on, like Sunday afternoon for a half hour. Put it in your calendar for a half hour, hour once a week so you have it scheduled in. But also, when you have a few moments, if you're looking for some inspiration, if you just want to connect, if you want to share your stories, share your expertise in what works, it's always there and available. But I definitely don't hope you feel like it's one more thing to do. I know teachers have 5 billion things to work on and go through a lot of decisions throughout the day. But I think the PLN, having that is probably one of the most beneficial tools that you can have as a teacher.
And it's fun. It's my recreation, like that's where my friends are hanging out, and then I get to go meet them in person and go, hey, that's right, tell me more about that thing we were talking about. So it's actually one of those things I do as part of my leisure time at this point. It counts as my hobby.
So Mark Rounds has just joined us. Thanks, Mark. I apologize for the mix-ups here, but Mark Rounds is a teacher at the Juvenile Court and Community Schools down in San Diego, and Mark is another person that I have met through conferences and professional media. So, Mark, thanks for joining us, and Tori and Jen have just been talking about how social media has helped them professionally. I wonder if any of you could talk about how you use, or if you use, social media with students, and specifically outside of Twitter. So let's think about Instagram or Voxer or Edmodo or Pinterest or whatever. Can you address using social media with students, with classes of students, either at college or in K-12?
I'll jump in since I haven't talked yet. Hi everyone. Sorry I'm in a little late, but I was watching and trying to communicate with Kevin behind the scenes, and I finally got in. Awesome. The tool that I've found myself using most with students, both college and high school, is Google Plus Communities. So Google Plus is kind of, I don't know if we're using it right now to have this hangout, but Google Plus was kind of Google's semi-failed attempt to make a social network. That's probably their third or fourth one. And the one really beneficial tool that I've found in that Google Plus framework is communities, because you can build basically a social network that's in that proverbial walled garden, so that your students aren't necessarily communicating with people outside, because I know that's always the red flag that gets set up outside of the Garden of Eden. We don't know what kind of treachery is out there in the world. So if we want students participating in a social environment, the awesome framework that Google has set up inside of these communities has really been beneficial for me. I have college classes that I teach where I facilitate just about the entire college class through a Google Plus community.
Great.
I'll echo Mark's comments. I use Google Plus communities as well. I set them up for each of my classes, and I require the students to post once a week and reply to another post. And I know they hate the requirement, but at the end of the year or end of the semester, they have to do a reflection on what they learned and what their thoughts were about the class. And every single one of them posted about the Google Plus community, because my classes are all about education technology, and it's always changing, and you can find so much more online than I can know as a professor. So the students were learning so much more from each other, and Google Plus is a good community, is a good platform. You don't need Facebook, you don't have to connect that way, but it's still visual, it still sends you notifications through email. So I really like Google Plus communities, and also Twitter chats. I partnered up with UC Santa Barbara's graduate students in EdTech, and I had my students and their students do a Twitter chat, and the professor and I had 10 questions, and that was another thing they all mentioned as their favorite part of the semester in terms of learning the power of Twitter. So I definitely use social media as much as possible, because I think students need to have that experience. They need to know how to use the tools to their professional, personal benefit. So yeah, that's what I use them.
Great.
Yeah, that's very valid. I use, with my high school students, I don't use Twitter very much. I tend to lurk, and like somewhere like 3 months into the year, one of them mentions Twitter, and I'm like, what's that Twitter thing? Should I be on that? And we have this lovely debate about whether or not I should be on Twitter. And this is my advisory class. So this is 15-minute debate about whether or not I should be on Twitter. And then one of them finally looked me up and went, "Wait a minute!" It's a great moment. One of my graduate students, I teach at USD. One of my graduate students just got a job up in Palo Alto, and I happened to catch a tweet from a friend of mine that said, "I love it when I look up a new colleague and they already are connected on Twitter and have have a cool PLN." And he was talking about her. And I went, wait a minute, I taught her that, I taught her to get connected, and it was already serving her well in her new job when, she hadn't even started yet. She was looking good to them. Apparently they didn't search her up before they hired her, or maybe somebody else did, but he found her afterwards. My students use a lot of Instagram. Some of them will follow me on Instagram. Some of them will follow me on Twitter. I don't worry about my students following me on social media. They're welcome to. I'm out there to be a public role model and tweet good things, and I warn them that I won't follow them back necessarily because I don't always want to see it, but if they follow me, I'll certainly go look at their feed, and that's enough to frighten some of them, and I'm like, well, it's public, anyone can look at it. I think part of the reason teachers need to be on Twitter, besides just the PLN aspect of it, which is huge, is just letting students know we're there, is that being adults on the playground kind of thing. We wouldn't send fifth graders out to recess without a grown-up sort of somewhere out there, but kids are playing on social media and there's nobody supervising. So we should be part of that world, and I think there's a lot of value in knowing just knowing enough about how the system works yourself to be able to recognize when something's becoming a problem, or understand a student who's trying to tell you about a problem that they're having with social media or online bullying or those kinds of things. So we need to know what they're talking about, and it's really good street cred with your kids when they find out that you have Instagram. Like, yeah. Like, how do you know about that? I'm like, well, it's a thing. So just kind of knowing about the things that they're using to communicate makes them more willing to listen to me somehow. I have some credibility there.
Do you separate professional accounts and personal accounts? Do you have them separate? Do you only use these social medias for professional purposes? How do you handle that?
I limit my Facebook to kind of friends only, like people I would actually invite to my house. And then my Twitter is public and professional, and my Instagram is public and professional. I post pictures of my kids on Facebook. I don't post pictures of my kids on Twitter or Instagram, for example.
So you separate them by different services then? I
separate them by different services, which has worked best for me. Although at this point, a lot of my Facebook friends are also my ed tech friends, and so those streams are starting to cross. But my Facebook
don't cross the stream.
Don't cross the stream. It's just that I'm starting to. Kevin's my friend, and I don't mind being Facebook friends with him. I can't remember if we are or not. But I certainly, those worlds are starting to blend. I can't handle dual identities. I can't handle this is my personal Twitter account, and I'm only going to tweet personal things. And this is my professional Twitter account, and I'm only going to tweet professional things. That would just drive me crazy.
Yeah, the stream crosser for me is always Instagram, because I have my Instagram set up to whenever I put anything on Instagram, it goes right to my Facebook and right to my Twitter. So if I'm sending an Instagram out from something that I'm doing in my classroom, which I do often, I let it stay. But if I'm Instagramming out this great new beer that I just tried, I'll kind of uncheck it from Twitter and let it go just to Facebook, because it's kind of those parts of you that you let students see. So like my Instagram and Facebook are closed, so you just can't there's nobody could just go in there. It's just friends, people that I bring into that world. But Twitter is our public sphere. So you can't. I've never blocked anyone from Twitter. So if your kids look you up and they see you tipping back a nice IPA, that's kind of crossing guards. Although I'm saying it right, I'm actually in class right now, so I've got like 7 students in here that can actually hear me saying that. But you guys are okay with that, right? Yeah. Say hi. There they are. Yeah. So, but that's kind of my one of my clearinghouses there is Instagram, and so you can set it up that way. But as far as Twitter is concerned, I really only tweet out things that are in my realm as an educator.
Mm-hmm.
So but everything else is kind of free game. Pinterest I actually have used primarily for education, but Facebook and Instagram are kind of has become kind of a as Jen said, kind of a little more open as my friends have become people that I am associated with professionally.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a boundary crossing there. But as a teacher, I've never really friended students or former students. It's just kind of it's one of those kind of boundaries that I've never really crossed. Just for whatever reason in my own head, it just kind of helps me demarcate a difference.
Sure.
Kevin, are you going to give them Twitter newbie tips at some point?
Yes, we've talked a little bit about that, and we've spent a little bit of time on that overnight. So yes.
Turn off your notifications. That's my one.
What tips would you have for
notifications are what drive people crazy and make them close their Twitter accounts, because the default is that you get like 25 different kinds of notifications from Twitter. You get notified every time someone mentions you, every time someone follows you, every time someone sends you a direct message. Twitter has come up with all kinds of categories of email they will send you. So you have to go into your notification setting and turn most of those off, and just really keep the ones you really, really, really want to get an email about, and that helps people relax a little bit. Follow at least 50. If you're not following at least 50 to 100 people, then Twitter won't be as much fun for you, because that sounds like a lot, but if every time you check your Twitter feed nothing's changed, you'll stop checking your Twitter feed. So you want new stuff to be there when you go to look at it, and usually the threshold for that for most people is 50 to 100, and that's a doable number. And just make that a goal to follow 10 new people a day just by looking at someone you already follow and see who they follow.
That's a really good strategy, is to look at other people's followers and see what they have. Yeah. And I forgot what else I was going to say about that. Yeah.
And if you don't,
go ahead.
Do they get that Twitter's not like Facebook? It's not one-to-one. They don't have to follow. People don't have to follow them back. If you're following someone and they're suddenly annoying you a lot, or they're at a conference and they're tweeting constantly and it's not stuff you're interested in, you can mute them. You can also just unfollow them. And follow them again later if you feel like it. Sometimes around, election season, I have to unfollow some people who are getting a little too militant about one candidate, and I'm like, okay, I get your position. I don't need to hear it 4 times a day.
Right. That's actually what I was gonna. That reminded me. That's what I was gonna say. When you unfollow someone, they don't get a notification that says this person has unfollowed you. It's just kind of silent, and it just is there. So. Yeah. So, are there questions that you guys have that you would want to ask them? Yeah, Chris.
Well, you just mentioned that Twitter thing about. I have a couple Twitter questions, because I had a former student who writes for the Huffington Post now, and I wanted to send her a tweet that would only get to her, not to the ether. Is it possible on Twitter, where you just direct message someone?
Yeah.
Yes, you can send a direct message, but you have to both be following each other for that to work. So if she's not following you, you have to just send her an open tweet that says, hey, could you follow me? I'd wanted to send you a direct message.
Gotcha.
And usually most people will respond and follow you, and you can send them their message, and then they get it. You can also now, with Twitter, you can also now do group direct messages. So I can pick 4 or 5 I want to send a direct message to if we're coordinating dinner, or working out on some other plan, which is kind of nice too. Good feature.
Provided they've added you, then you're not sending that out to the world.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. It's, as long as you're following each other, yeah.
Cool.
And you're using direct message and not just the @ mention.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Melissa.
If we unfollow somebody, but then later want to refollow them, do they get another message that so and so is following you?
Yes. Every time you you refollow someone or follow them, they will get that message. Yeah. You can. Yeah, you could just mute people during election time. Yes. Another thing is that for whatever reason, there's all kinds of glitches and in Twitter, and every once in a while I'll find that there's 10 or 20 people that I've unfollowed that I didn't mean to. So you can always just claim, oh, I didn't know that Twitter did that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I thought I was following
okay,
you. I've been following you, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Blame it on the bug. Yeah.
Voxer.
Do you use Voxer?
Tori, you want to start with that one? I've been taking lots of questions, but because I certainly have opinions on Voxer, and I'd be happy to go there. But
I haven't used Voxer. Apparently, it's becoming more popular. The two researchers that I'm working with really want to use it so that, if we come across an article that we want to cite in our paper, that they could just, I believe that's the one where you send like audio messages.
Yeah.
Is that Voxer? Yeah.
Voice messages, yeah.
So that they could summarize the whole paper by talking and then send it to me, whereas I can't think in that way. I need to write it out, so I haven't figured out why people like to use it, but I can see like an admin going into a classroom and doing a quick observation of what worked, what didn't, and sending it to you, or something in terms of, like that, but...
yeah, Voxer for me is a lot like voicemail, and I'm not a huge fan of voicemail. You can't, I mean, it has been really, really wonderful when I've been in a small group with people I really like, and I like knowing what's going on in their lives, and they're kind of far away from me. And I was in a group about a year ago that was really wonderful like that. We were leading up to an event that we were all planning together, and it really helped to be on Voxer. But everyone in that group was pretty good at, like, there were certain group norms developed, like that you don't, if someone says something and you want to say something to them about that that's really just for them, that's not for the good of the group, you take that somewhere else and you have a more private conversation. I've been in other groups where there's like 100 people in the group, and I go to listen to it one day, and it's just 10 minutes of two people talking back and forth to each other in what should have been a phone conversation, or a separate Voxer channel or something like that. So it depends on how it's being used and who you're using it with. I've used it real effectively with a student teacher. It was a great way for her and I to communicate with each other really quickly. And you can send both voice memos and text memos and images, so it's kind of like if you were in a place where you couldn't Vox, you could text. But you do have to be able to listen to the Voxes, which meant I was constantly either digging from my headphones or annoying the people around me, and I don't feel comfortable Voxing conversationally in places with other people around me. So I found that my friends who liked Voxer the most were the ones who live alone, which is like, it's true. Like, the people who used it constantly were the ones who didn't have to. And Voxer was their outlet. It was their link to their friends. And I didn't mind being one of their friends, and as long as they didn't mind that for every 6 times they Voxed, I responded once. Because I couldn't do it with my kids around. I couldn't, it just didn't fit well into my life the way it does, where it's very, very silent, and I don't have to use my ears. Yeah. So I like that aspect of it better.
I hit mark all as heard all the time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they just back up.
Yeah, Tori, and Jen, I'm with you. I tried Voxer for a while, and I just it wasn't for me. I prefer to read and to write rather than to listen. I don't like the phone to begin with, so it's not. Yeah, I'm with you. So
I think it can be really effective when it's written.
Yeah, Cheryl?
I'm looking around in the Twitter settings, and you can actually get direct messages from anyone. You don't have to be following.
They changed that recently. Yeah, you can turn that off though. Yeah. Yeah, they've changed the direct messaging settings just a little bit. Yeah, I've got that turned off. I don't need direct messages from everybody. So. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So Tori, did you hear that? So we've got a world language teacher, Spanish teacher, who's asking if she wants to connect with other schools around the world. What would be the best platform for that?
Definitely Twitter through some kind of world language hashtag. I think that would be a great way to connect with other teachers. There's like Mystery Skype, which is really great, where you can sign up and connect with other classrooms, and then have students engage in a fun little, like, trying to figure out where the other classroom is. But I think they have opportunities to connect with other teachers on there too. I think those tools are the best for reaching a really wide audience, but there's probably like Facebook groups. If you look up World Language Teacher Facebook group or World Language Teacher Google Plus community or Ning, there's lots of little spaces here and there that you could probably go and find.
I would think Edmodo as well. I would think there'd be Edmodo groups as well.
Yeah, they have one. It's probably got about 100,000 followers in it, so another great space.
Great.
And blogging works well for that too, because often you get time difference issues, but your students can blog in the target language and get comments and responses from native speakers, which is kind of fun too. Which isn't the same as hearing each other, but is another way of communicating and using that target language.
Yeah. So.
And maybe a Voxer channel with people from other parts of the world would be fun.
Voxer would be really good for languages. Yeah. So we've gone over our time, and I want to thank Jen and Tori and Mark for participating and for joining us here. It's been very helpful. It's good to see you guys, and I will see Tori. I'll see you later on today, and then Jen and Mark. I don't know when I'll see you next. So bye. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Have fun, San Diego.